All right. Yo, yo, yo. What is going on, everyone? Welcome back for episode 2 here of the CoD Pod. We are back, myself, the fantastic MrSneaky,
Hello.
and we are ecstatic. We got some pretty awesome topics today to cover, Sneak, and I am, for one, ecstatic to get into it. How are you doing, man? How's been the past week?
Well, for me, the past week in real life has been a bit harsh just because of my new job and that. But with the game, it's been really good. I've had a bit of a mishap, for which I think the guys in NT know, which is a bit of a nuisance, which we might talk about when it comes to like maybe the topics and stuff. To do like alliances and how like you can maneuver between alliances and so forth. We stumbled in another kind of like an oh shit moment basically like oh no we messed up. So that was fun though. We laughed it off anyway. We all knew we were all made errors, but apart from that, yeah, I'm really good, man. How about yourself?
Nice, nice. Yeah, man, honestly, just work's been a grind, but thankfully, whenever I find time to get some nice reprieve in by doing these shows, and then I think just getting some time to settle in and really grind some content out. That's for me at least the happy place, like it might be for
Yeah.
some of us. So.
Yeah.
With that in mind, let us dive in to the first big one here, right? And this is, I mean, this topic might, occupy, I would imagine, a decent amount of time on the show or the pod. However, this one is going to be on essentially just kind of just talking about the recent update. So, for me, when it comes to right 1.0.12, right, Crucible of Courage. I mean, this was a big update, to say the least, and probably thus far has been the biggest quality of life update for what's been put into it. Now, again, we can kind of go through either each section and maybe just talk about some of the standouts there. I just logged in game so I can actually see, and I'm gonna switch this up too as well so we can look at some of these updates on here, so I can really show it off on. Well, I wouldn't say on stream, but at least on the video recording. So, but if we start with one, right? So, a smoother route to prosperity. Do you have it up as well? Right now,
Yeah,
Steve? Okay.
1.012 we're talking about, yeah.
Okay. So, well, listen. Let's go through each, and how about you? How about we just go through what we think are the biggest standouts for each section. Whether it be the one thing we like the most out of here, and then obviously if there's any opportunities or things that we'd want to critique or provide some feedback on, right? But in a smoother route to prosperity, what's something here right out of, I think there's 8 points on this one. Which one or two, Steve, do you like the most, and why?
Well, I'm gonna exclude the hero one personally because I think the hero one's the easy choice because the hero one is really good. Like Fear, if we're gonna like talk about her later, is really good. Like as a hero overall, she's like outstandingly really good. Um, and then like Pan is like okay. She's like all right for an epic. She's nowhere near like as good as the others, but she's like has her things. But like for me, the biggest one in here was actually like the eighth point, which in the seventh point, they kind of like work both hand in hand, 7 and 8.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all to do with like the dragon trials because like I don't think people realize like how much more owly dragon glass you're getting in this dragon trial, right? And when you look at number 8, the reduction on all the pricing is ridiculous as well because before we was paying 40k for every Indus token and now I'm only paying 20k for each token. Like I've got a 50% discount, so I'm doubling up already on the amount of legendaries I'm getting. and it was like the epics, I think, as well, are like 12k instead of being like nearly 25k. So it was just like ridiculous the amount of like reduction that was going in. And isn't even talking about like the medals you're gonna need later on as well, because you might have the heroes, but you might be lacking in the medals, right? To like level them up and star them up. But the fact that like you can now just, especially for a free to play player, you have like really good access to like, if you want to specialize and like, you know, maximize an epic hero, you can actually like do that now. You can like really fastly expertise someone, because then if you get them in gold keys, you get in scrap again. So then those scraps you can use for like universals, and then you can like pump them into like a new hero that you're working on. So it kind of like all works hand in hand as a free player player, and it's like a really good change like for the game. Like I said, I kind of like bundle them two together, and it's like, I think the other really good point, and I think you might probably like this, which I think I'll let you talk a bit more on, was like the Earth's Grace change for all the gatherers. That was like a really good change, because it was just like, it just forces you to get this really early talent that kept the gatherers like levels in check, because you like always already realized in this season, especially if you're playing it, that like all your heroes are like 40 and 50 and 60, but like your gatherers are still like level 20. Like they're still down in the dumps. Like, but now they gained like so many levels really quickly because of just like a little quick, you know, talent shift. And it's been a really good talent shift. So I do enjoy it, you know. So I'll let you like speak about what points you think are good. You probably know more of the numbers side, I think, compared to me on that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, Breath of the Forest for me, I think for me is probably a hands down. Would be what I would consider to be my pick here, just because, and I touched on this in the update video, right? But you get, and what's interesting is, right, because we some of us didn't know early on if you could stack talents, right? Then we found out from the COD CS after someone asked about it that you then can stack talents.
Yeah, you could. I knew you could.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, and I didn't know that early on. And so, at least for my early time playing in S2, and I think I found this out maybe, I don't even know, maybe a month, maybe a couple weeks after playing in S2 when someone had asked on the COD Discord about it. And then we saw. Just because I myself never tested it out.
So, later on in this patch, we'll talk about it, and that is the reasoning why. That's all I'll put there as like a little taster to later on in this patch. Because it's the hot topic for me in this whole patch. It's the one topic that like kind of like upsets me, but it's like understandable, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, and so, you know, at least for this one with Breath of the Forest, right, you can max, like, I think there's 3 of these that you can do. There's 3 talents on the Gathering Tree, and it maxes out at 5.2% that you can get it to, which is just great. I mean, when you think about it over now, obviously we're going to have to, because the update just hit, right, you'd have to look at, you know, what, maybe Kingdom 17, 18, 16, right? They're the ones who are really going to get the full opportunity to develop a gatherer in that way, right? Just because they're getting it from the full span of season 1 to see what that may look like. And then, you know, is that something that you can eventually max them out quicker? And then because now you're gathering more, you're able to max your buildings out sooner because you're not being backlogged on RSS. I mean, I think there's a lot of value. Not even that, but just on training, right? You can do more bulk training as well because you have more resources that you're able to use, especially if you're saving those training speed ups. So I think there's a lot of benefits to investing into gatherers early on that really pay dividends. And it's not as though you're ever going to have to fully invest in them, right? It's one of those things where, right, you're investing in them long enough to where you're able to reap the rewards of maxing out your buildings, maxing out your tech. And then once you get to that point, right, and then you eventually play in, let's say, a new season, you may not need to max them out anymore, right? Maybe you only need to level them up to 20 or 30, right, wherever their gathering talent is, and then you're done with them, right? And that's maybe even a topic for a later time, right, which is looking at how to play that type of meta game out with which heroes you choose to level up in a specific season. because clearly there's no way to max out every hero to 60 within one season. But I do think there are some inherent benefits.
Is that a challenge?
Yeah, I know, right? Exactly, no, 100%. But that's the thing, though, is that, like, and this is a topic that was discussed on the COD Discord for a little while. That's why people were saying, we need, to increase experience or make, and I even had made a post on there talking about how, it'd be nice if you could max at least 10 heroes to level 60, because 10 heroes would mean 5 marches, right? But that would be if you grinded. Like, I could see that if they gave you the opportunity. Now there's ways to do that, but again, without getting too far off topic, that's just a small little thought on the side. So yeah, I mean, this one for me, I think hands down is the easiest. I think the number 2 one, and this would only be my other one, which is on the cooldown reduction for Staff of the Prophet, where for its single target heal. That it got, and obviously, don't get me started on, the tier of Arbin debuff, right? Who doesn't want to be able to heal 10 friendly legions, right? Which has now been reduced to, what is it, 4, I think?
4, yeah.
So it's, I mean, that was a super debuff when that came through. But, I mean, I like this from Staff of the Prophet. My view on this, though, and I've mentioned this in a video about, I would love for them to make it so artifacts can be used a little more frequently in fights. I'd love to see artifacts with, things like 30 to second cool, like somewhere between a 30 to second cooldown. Just because of the fact that your unit isn't going to survive for 10 minutes. I mean, it's just not going to happen. No. So being able, I think to use a few more would be great.
Yeah, I think the problem with that is, like, I think they purposely want, like, the artifacts to feel powerful. So, like, if you reduce the timer on when you get to use an artifact, you basically get to use it obviously more often. So, like, it feels in the long term like less impactful as a spell, like as a player generally. I think that's like the general consensus of what their team looks at it as, because, like, every time you get to hit that dragon scale armor and it's a 1 minute 30 cooldown, or like Glad, the Warhammer, and you hit that AoE stun on like 4 targets that we're trying to run, that feels so goddamn good. But imagine if you could do that every 30 seconds. It would just feel like a new, like, part of your kit. Like, it's like, yeah, okay, like, it kind of loses its kind of like special like treatment. It kind of loses its character, if you want to call it that. Like, so it's a weird one, because I kind of like agree, but at the same time, like, I disagree. It's such a weird stance on it, because I do want to see some artifacts that maybe are less, like, they've got a lower cooldown, but I don't want them to like lower the cooldown of the current artifacts. I think all the artifacts are pretty well balanced, to be fair. I haven't actually seen something where you're seeing such a massive imbalance of like one particular artifact. Like, everything generally seems like it does have a place. Like, you're able to use it at very, very maximum efficiency. Even if you have like Phoenix Eye, for example, like Phoenix Eye level 1 is just infinitely stronger than a time bomb. It just does more damage even at level 1. Like, so it's just like, it just shows like the capabilities of each of them, like, once you get to like experience using one. So, like, having that effect, like, lower feels a bit brutal. Maybe on the epics, if we talk about it, like, maybe the epics should have lower cooldowns, because in essence you are dealing less damage over time. So, like, instead of doing like a minute and 30, what would happen if you did a 1 minute timer? Would the epic artifact out DPS the legendary artifact until it's like level 3 in its skill, and like level 2 they're almost equal, and then obviously level 4 the legendary outscales it, and then level 5 it's just like exponentially just beats everything. Like, maybe they do it in that aspect, I could kind of see, but I don't see him like doing it to the legendaries. I think the legendaries are kind of good where they're at.
Yeah, and to the point, I don't know if it's something where it necessarily has to be that soon. Like, I mean, even if you look at some, for example, if you look at some of the legendaries right now, right, you'll notice that Like, for example, if I was to look at, what do I have here? Bum, 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 bum. Like, if we looked at Greymar's Warhammer, right, the first one you mentioned, a minute 30 seconds, right? I don't think that's unreasonable. Now, could I see this maybe being, a minute or so? Yeah, no, I mean, I think that. I mean, even if you look at, if you look at arguably, like, the majority of legendaries are around 1 minute 30 seconds. Bounty of Nature, that's a gathering one, right? That's 2 hours. I mean, I can understand that. I mean, you don't necessarily have to sell me on that. You got Geomancy, which is the right that's the one that TPs your unit to a random unmanned high level resource point. That's 2 minutes. Royal Punishment, which is Kingslayer, right? 1 minute 30 seconds. Dragon Scale Armor, 1 minute 30 seconds. I mean, Shadow Games, 1 minute 30 seconds. Right. So a lot of these are a minute. A lot of these are a minute 30. Now, could I see them maybe going to a minute or so just because of like how long they're going to be in the fight versus? I mean, I don't think 1 minute 30 second is bad, and obviously, I think we have to still see probably more kingdoms play out.
The thing is, if you change the timings, you change as well how some of them work. So, for example, right. I was speaking to someone in Forbidden about this because they didn't realize, like, he was 5 million more power than me, but my archers only just lost by like 1 skill cycle trigger because he hit his first. Mm-hmm. And it's the Viola's bow, and if you like read Viola's bow, it deals 200 less damage than Shadow Blades, but it also, when you activate it and you hit up to 5 targets with this effect, it delays their artifacts usage by 10 seconds. So if you've got this spell at a 1 minute 30 cooldown and anything else that's below it now, so like 1 minute 10, 1 minute, whatever you want to call it, you just like lose the effectiveness of this, because obviously your whole point of using this is for the utility to delay your opponents. But if they're going to be able to still fire something off, there's no point taking it anymore, right? So I think that's like one issue they've got, where like some of their artifacts, because of the way they're worded and the actual effect of the artifact, it forces them to, like, if one thing's going to be 1 minute, they're all going to be 1 minute.
Yeah.
It won't be like a weird meta where you're gonna have some at 1 minute, 1 minute 15, 1 minute 30, maybe a 2 minute one. Like, I don't think you'll see that. It'll be like, I think they'll keep it a nice level playing field where it's always one or the other, because, like I say, you've got these sort of effects in the game already, and I think they're gonna be adding more. So, and I enjoy that because it's just counterplay, right? If I can Viola's bow your, dragon scale armor and you can't armor up for 10 more seconds, you might just die. Like, it's such a good outplay. Like, it's so good. And like, it's like you can hit 5 targets with that. Like, it's so good. So like, that's what I mean. When you've got things like that in the game, and like even the ones where it's like the mage one, which technically like reduces the defense and stuff, those ones are powerful because of the timers, because everything's equal. So it is a cool point, but I think they've probably experimented with it. I think they've tried it and it don't work. So they've just stuck to 1 minute like 30, because 1 minute 30 isn't bad. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like, normally in a fight, if you're fighting, especially if, like, unless you're infantry, like, I'm sorry, infantry players, if you're out there listening, like, you're gonna get 1, maybe 2 skill cycles if you're lucky, right?
Sorry.
But if you're like an archer or a mage player, right?
Yeah.
You're hitting at least like 3 to 5, like, in one go.
Yeah.
Quite easily. And the only times you're not is when you're getting outpushed, or if you're just really bad in positioning, because that is just one of the like skill sets to be a ranged player, is just have positioning skills. But if you've got those, like, you should always be able to hit like 3 easily. 3, 4 maybe is like a good like standard, and then like 5's out of push now. But like, your troops can survive long enough by doing that. So it's almost 10 minutes of combat, and I know I can get my archers out for longer than 10 minutes in combat if I have to recall them. So it is good. Maybe they could reduce it to 1 minute, maybe, or maybe like 1 minute 15. Maybe like just reduce it by 15 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more small adjustments, right? Where it's like a 10 to 15 sec change, especially if it's a lower number. But I mean, like I said, I think before even any of that can be considered, even though I'd love to see something like that maybe later on if they tested, or like you mentioned, right? If it's something where you can scale the cooldown a little bit as your skill leveling up the artifact, that could even be something. But without hammering that home, let's go to number 2, right, where it says more enjoyable events. What do you think about the number of events currently? Do you think there's enough for the stage at which the game is at right now? Do you think they need to add more, and why? And or why, I should say.
I always think they need to add more. They've done a really good one, because Crucible of... what is it? Crucible of Worlds it's called or something?
Courage, yeah.
Yeah, the Crucible of Courage. So that is basically Korok, if you've played Rise of Kingdoms. Mm-hmm. It's just like a really good version, and the really good thing about this event, it doesn't cost you any CP. You just can do it for free. Like, and that's like the things that needs to be in the game. This is a really good one. I think they just need to implement maybe like 1 or 2 more, just for now, because then it allows players to not have, because I call them like basic events. So like gather so many resources per day, and that's on a reset. Like that's a basic one. Everyone does this. It's just like it happens. Like kill so many patrols, like 50 patrols. Like okay, everyone generally kills 50 patrols a day. So like these events are kind of like filler, if you want to call it, like filler in an anime. Like they're just there. And then you have like your strongest lord, which is good because it's like the competitive event. And then you have your caravan event, which is, your alliance kind of ranking event at the moment, which is good. But like at least like now with this one, they've got like an actual like solo-ish event, which is good because you can now almost cover all the sectors. And I think if you just added 1 or 2 more to satisfy players' needs or like, players' activities, because a lot of the time you are still kind of like AFKing unless you're at war or fighting, you are just like farming because there isn't enough events to keep you going at the moment, which is fine. I'm not gonna like slap them on it.
How dare they?
Yeah, they have to make sure they have like 20 events in. Like, but no, like if they added like 1, maybe 2 for now, even if it was like 1 really interactive event again, like similar to this, maybe a bit more team orientated, and then they just added a whatever event, it's just like a cool whatever like basic gathering event or something. That'd be good. Like for example, like this is a good example. They missed out events for like holidays, right? Because there wasn't a Christmas event on here, but there was obviously a Christmas event on Rise. There wasn't like a New Year like bundle or New Year special. There was like nothing like that so far. We're coming up to Easter, and we don't know if there's going to be like anything to do with like an Easter special. The Chinese New Year's come up later. We don't know if they are coming to the game or out. So like, we don't know all these opportunities that they could add because of past experience, but they just haven't done it yet. So I think they're gonna. It's just like when. That's the best question to ask. Is like kind of like when do you think they're gonna add them, right?
No, for sure. I mean, I think it's funny you mentioned about AVA events, right? I mean, to me, that's the thing I think would be great to see them add a little bit more in, right? If I'm looking at general events, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I think over time they'll add in more events throughout. I mean, I kind of like the idea of them adding in, 1 event, give or take, each update. So that way they have something to throw in. And I would say that even could be an up to, right? If they don't necessarily need to. I mean, I think obviously now it makes sense because the game's early and being able to add 1 event per update, especially if they stagger updates out, can at least give people something to look for. And I think with the Crucible Courage, something like Karak, that sounds great. The fact that, I mean, again, I haven't played that event yet, so you mentioning that there's no CP, and that actually seems like a big win.
Oh, it's so good. So it no CP, you can rally every level, same like Karak, but you just kill them. Yeah. Kill them level up.
No, it's great. And I mean, so for me, I think let me take the opposite side of this, which is, I think that if there were certain types of events I would like to see a little bit more in COD would be just more AVA, more alliance versus alliance events, ones that really stack you up against others in your kingdom, because I think that kind of goes also along with the trend that we see in the kingdoms, and especially once you get to your season 1 plus, or if it will be titled season 2 eventually for your merged kingdom, which is right. They it's almost as though the game is doing things to encourage you to fight. So why not add events in that essentially kind of allow for you to, visually strut your stuff, right, to everyone else in the kingdom based on, how much engagement, how much activity, how much interaction you have within your alliance. I mean, anything from, an event on who can gather the most, on an event on, who can, maybe if they issue points out for attacking certain tier levels of Darklings, right? Who can, which alliance can gain the most points? What if they added in some type of a, what would be cool? What if they added in some type of like a Where's Waldo type event, right? Where you basically had to just search the map and you had to find
the gobbo.
Yeah.
Find the gobbo.
Yeah, exactly. Just anything, right? Like maybe it was like a baby goblin, right? Like the baby Yoda version, but it's the baby goblin, and you have to find, right, or just anything, right? I mean, it could be
baby Craig.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Craig's nephew or something. I mean, whatever it is, right? I mean, but like something like that could be cool, where you have to go around the map and you have to find. You basically just have to find something that's really like, for example, when you do the when you're doing the maps, like the map event in COD, where you have to find like the 7 or 8 or 9 map pieces, and then the map will show you, or the map pops up and then it shows you the red X, and you have to go and scroll to the area, and then you have to zoom in close enough to where you can actually see the detailed map, and then you have to find the card or whatever it is, and you click on it and then you go. Something like that would be really cool, on like how many pieces can you find. You could even do something where, maybe you have to build stuff. Maybe you have to collect enough pieces, build something, and then after you build it, right, it's almost like a 2 or 3 part objective based event, right? You have to go find materials to build something. You build it, and then after you build it, you have to kind of, maybe it's like a hybrid caravan thing. Like you have to build the caravan, then once it's built, you can start the event, and you have to get it. Maybe it's like you have to get it from one side of the map to the other side of the map, but then enemy alliances can stop you, right? Like they can attack it or something. Like those types of things, right? That I think, can really take what you're doing on a home kingdom to the next level when it comes to these types of AVA events. Not just ones where you're just kind of doing leaderboard climbing on your own, but ones that are a little bit more interactive, even where it's more interactive in between between alliances, rather than alliances just kind of being separated and just trying to engage as much as they can in the event.
Do you know what I actually would love to see? It would be a very similar system to that. But imagine if they do all these server merges, right? So you all have your starting servers you all start out in. If you wanted to call this like your resource point, like this is all you do, you level up and resource up, right? You all merge into this server, right? As we've done in SS1, and this continues all the way down the line, so there's never going to be so many SSXs, right? What I would love to see would be, imagine like those events where you were doing those type of things, like killing patrols and getting points for doing so. Imagine if you were like, as in a server, like working, all the alliances were working together at one point to like earn points against the other servers in like a bracket, and then whoever wins gets extra gets extra prizes for doing that.
I'm with you.
And then like your server might get like some sort of, I don't know, like all your alliances might get an extra little symbol next to them, for whoever participated in it.
So almost something like EOTC before you go to KVK.
Even like Rock's done it now, right? Rock's done it where if you win the KVKs, you get the stars, for example. Like imagine if you got like not a star, but like something cool. It could be like a special stone for winning, like a green emerald for winning like the gathering one or something like that, and like a red ember, for fighting or PvP styled ones and stuff. It'd be cool if like they did that, and instead of like trying to always like KVK every single rotation, if you want to call it, you could just like have times where you're not KVKing, but you're still able to like play against other servers and like, as you say, like put your rep on the line and put your pride on the line and like smash like as hard as you can, because obviously that's what you want to do, right?
Yeah.
And represent. So I'd love to see something like that. That'd be cool. Like having that system with like server versus servers leaderboards or something in that regard. That'd be cool. Like,
yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I think, yeah, man. I mean, you could probably go a couple of different directions with that too, as well. That is definitely an idea. So
that's so good.
Yeah,
they should hire this.
I mean, immediately. What do they think? Why? Who's over there? Who do we have to get in contact with? Okay, let's go to number 3. How about like an improved alliance system here? So for this one, I think we have 6 points. Yeah, so 6 points here. Just give me one for you. Right? What's one that you really like?
I'm trying to think. Because I've been in, it's weird because I've had this alliance situation, so I'm kind of like not liking the alliance patch anyway. Just because like I hate the fact that with alliances, and this isn't to do with the patch, but when you're in an alliance and say you leave it and you're trying to join another alliance, which is cool, and you get in. If like you're trying to join back to like your alliance and your alliance doesn't control like a behemoth in that zone and you get cooked because of it, oh man, it's so savage. And I hate the fact that like when you're doing stuff like that, you have a 16 or 18 hour teleport penalty. Like fine if it's maybe like 12 hours, but like almost a full day is just brutal. Because like I was in I think like zone 3, left NT, went to join for Biden, went to come back into NT. Wait, I can't join NT, and I can't even teleport out without joining APK's alliance because they control the pass. So then I had to wait 18 hours in APK, hoping I didn't get kicked. It was just crazy. Otherwise, I'd have been stuck there until they'd have taken.
Oh wait, was this because you guys didn't have a union with them, or that alliance didn't? Oh jeez.
Yeah, it was wild.
Yeah.
So like that kind of like sours me anyway on the patch 1.0.12. But apart from that, like I do like the kind of like the new UIs and stuff. I like the fact that as well they improved the territorial relocation, so you can actually kind of see like where you can teleport, and the fact that your scouts can be on the other side of the map and you can still teleport. That's kind of cool. I think that's going to have its problems if you're a really clever alliance, because technically you can be scouting passes and just teleport on top of passes and stuff with that. So we'll soon see how effective and how long it stays in, because it can be really aggressive at that point. And that's probably the one I like the most because of it. I want to see like which alliances abuses this the most, because it is very abusable. The fact that you can teleport while scouting still. You can still be scouting. Your scouts just stop. They wait, and then they continue. Like it's like, okay, I'll let you scout the pass. I'll teleport there, and then they'll just appear back in my city with a 2-second walk timer.
With a 2-second walk time. Yeah, so it's this is the interesting part, and I don't, not to get too far off topic, but when it comes to the alliances, and this is always going to be my view, no matter what, is that the way that they're doing the way that the map opens here in COD is very reminiscent of how it opens in Infinity Kingdom, and essentially how it even opens when you talk about your home kingdom in Rock, right? At least until you get to KVK. My view is that because there is no home kingdom in COD, they should not have it where you are able to just go immediately to each zone 1. They need to have it be a standard type like Rock KVK progression where your level 2 pass is open, your level 3 pass is open, and then your adjacent level 1 pass is open, right? Those should always be last to open. And to me, without a doubt in my mind, if they were to implement this type of system, they will see more engagement within the kingdom, and they'll see less player drop off, because now regions are not going to be overrun or won't get invaded and then just scorched by any of the top alliances or any rogue players if they so choose to do it.
Do you know what this should do? And this would be like a really clever idea on their behalf, I think, which could just solve the issue as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, like, so the way the alliance system works, if like anyone's like wondering, when you make your character and you start and you pick your first ever Zone 1. So if you pick Forgotten Lands, we go into Forgotten Lands, boys. So you drop into Forgotten Lands, right? Now that account is forever associated as a Forgotten Lands character until the next season. So whenever you do like go into Zone 2 and you go into Zone 3 and so forth, without the behemoth like patch here to try and save the day, whenever you leave, you're always associated with Forgotten Lands, basically. So one thing they could just do, which would be a really easy solution to it, would be like, so if I joined NT like I have, they started in Forgotten Lands. I myself started in, I think it was Sophrastia, whatever it's called. So I could just join them, and then their alliance, because it starts in Forgotten Lands, just changes my starting region to Forgotten Lands. Because then you know you can always join back to your original alliance you was intended to be playing with, right? So like if you do, for example, join for Biden after like or Forbidden, should I say? I always call them for Biden for memes. But if you look at like, if you join like Forbidden or someone else, it means you'd be able to just again change your starting region to whatever theirs was or whatever the alliance classes as, and then you wouldn't have this weird issue where you'd have to like teleport all the way back to Zone 1 to like find territory that they both link to, and then teleport back. 'Cause you're wasting like 2 to 3 teleports to fix a solution. You know, so I think that's like one thing they could do. Like, it would be a really good thing to do for the like accounts, because I think they'd understand like the reasoning behind it. But yeah, I think that's one thing for me. I would definitely like just try and implement, like, if they could. It'd be definitely a good thing for the game. Like, without, I think, people realizing it or people like experience it themselves. It is a big like burden, especially when some players make an account in, say, Forgotten Lands, and their friends are all in the other region, the other side of the map, and they can't join them yet and stuff like that. At least like when they open up and you have joined their alliance because they've got Zone 2 control, at least then if something goes wrong, so you get kicked because you're not online during a war, you know, it happens all the time, everyone knows this. At least you can join back to that alliance without having to like try and teleport to Zone 1 to then apply it. It's just really convoluted. Like I said, it's just a weird issue for the game. So I don't know if you've ever seen it or experienced it yourself, but I do think they could fix everything by doing that. Like, it's a big positive.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I think the delay has some. I think the cooldown timer obviously does have some benefits. You know, I mean, I think some that we've touched on before was, you know, I think just limiting the amount of, you know, how quickly players can join other alliances, especially if they have any kind of ill intentions, or even if it's a rogue player that's just kind of alliance hopping to and from. I mean, I think there is some semblance of logic that has gone into why they have a timer. However,
yeah, I'm not saying don't get rid of the timer. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, even if you say it's 12 hours or whatever, I'm just saying, if you was a rogue player, for example, and I joined whatever this alliance was, I'd only be locked into their initial region. So if I'm a good boy, you know, I'm not a bad boy, and I was joining an alliance, at least I don't get penalized as well. So it's kind of like you get the best of both worlds with it. That's why I was hoping like they'll do it. I hope they do it, and they can keep the teleport timer, you know, like put it to 12 hours, like you said, because it does stop people abusing, like joining an alliance, teleporting to the other side of the map to fight from a different angle. It's just like so horrible to, like, I hate how people can do that in Rock. Like, it's just so abusive. But yeah, they need the timer still. We both agree on that.
yeah, no, for sure. And now, what I will say is, just on my one like small last note here is, outside of what I think doing kind of the traditional KVK thing would be cool, as far as how they do the standard like zone progressions, just to make it easier, so that way people aren't immediately put into a situation where they're getting constantly hit or being farmed. I think another way to do it, right, just because of the way the system works, right? So you can't just go in and swarm someone's city who's on Alliance territory, right, anymore. No. You can't rally anyone's city that's on Alliance territory. You essentially have to kill the flag first, get them off of Alliance territory, and then they can do something like that. Or, obviously, they can go and hit anyone who's in open field, right? So if you have someone that's farming or just a march that's walking around, you can still hit that. So, I think under that same logic, one of the things that I saw someone mentioned, this is, I think, in the COD Discord maybe a couple of weeks ago, was about, limiting how far you can create a center fortress, right? Where, we saw people in SS1, especially with TA, TR, multiple other alliances that essentially walked 1 to 2 regions worth of distance to go and place a CF. Now, my view on this is, it's funny because some people say, oh, well, you shouldn't be able to do that, and my view on it is, I mean, I actually kind of have both positions, right? I think on one side of the fence, it's if you're taking, I mean, that's a chance no matter what, because you have to assume that, your replenishment distance is so much farther than than the alliances who are already in the region of which you're placing that CF. So, the fact that, this game is supposed to simulate basically a real-time war environment, that should be something that you pay attention to, notice, and if you see the CF that's coming into your region, you should be able to respond accordingly. And right, but then on the other side of it is, well, if you have the number one alliance who's just gathering all the spenders and they're just going around and doing that and going and invading and attacking or taking whatever they want and, recapturing behemoth lairs that others had, or removing their alliance structures so they can go ahead and connect to more villages, I mean, et cetera, whatever it may be, that's the other side of it, which is, well, and this is where I kind of was thinking about the idea of, maybe instead of, maybe there's a range, right? Maybe there's a range, either like one of two ways. Either option one, there's a range on how far you can place a CF based on a range around an alliance flag, right? So if you have like an alliance flag that's extended on going out to one side of the region, you could only place a CF maybe within like 100 meters of the flag, or
that kind of exists,
or something. But
yeah, so I was gonna, so the way, if you've looked, if anyone knows about alliances, like how fortresses work, the only way you can do what everyone's been doing is because of the very first alliance fortress, right? Yeah. So the very first ever alliance fortress you have,
which your core
is the core, and the core ability is able to just teleport wherever it wants to be because it's the initial, basically, heart of the alliance. That's why it has the costs it does. That's why a lot of the time, if you're seeing people jumping, a lot of the time you see them build like AF1 on top. So there's a lot of technically like uptime and prep time to do this. And generally, like, as you say, like everyone's kind of like seen you telegraph it. But one thing that I don't think like players also like kind of consider when they like talk about this point is like, in order for an alliance like TA, for example, or even POS, right? In order for POS or TA to do what they did and just drop their CF and build it where they did, they did their own work, right? They spoke to like UNT, obviously, prior to this. They were united. TA would have spoken to someone in their like council. So it's the fact that like people want real-time strategy, which is true, and it does work. But at the same time, people love the diplomacy side of being able to talk to other alliances and like have diplomatic talks that enable you to actually do these moves. Because if, for example, the other alliances was like, no, we don't want you to do that, obviously then it creates like a different scenario, right? TA couldn't build there, so TA might have had to fight the way through it, all the way through, and so forth. And like POS, same thing. Like POS could have not been allied with UNT. So then, if we were going to try and do that CF drop like they did, UNT might have just blown it up, right? But it was because of the diplomacy that's happened over the time of playing that they've been able to do stuff like that. So I don't want to like rule out the ability to do it, because the thing is with the game, they've done a really good job on restricting how well an alliance can abuse territory. Let's just say that. Like, my whole season 1 guides were down to trying to abuse whatever mechanics we could. So like flags, for example, or any structures, for example, they require you to have a 25-kilometer road to attach to them at the start of build. So that kind of already limits everything apart from the core. Like, the core is the only one that's like the troublemaker. But even then, like, as the troubled child, you still need to kind of like get permission to do so. Otherwise, it's going to cause a stir, right? So, like, I get where both of your points, but, like, I think it's missing the other side of the game, because I think, like, a lot of players that are playing as well are part of councils and are officers and might want to strive to be part of an officer, team and so on. So when you're looking at those type of situations and those roles, they have their reasonings, of being able to do what they do as an alliance, like CF drop. So it is a good, I think, thing for the game. I think it's healthy how it is. I'm not gonna lie. I think it's kind of healthy how it is, but I don't know what they could do to make it any better, unless like they just threw something out in the works, which like throws both off guard. But like, I actually think the system's very balanced. Like, you can't really hop rivers, you can't hop mountains, you can't. I'm trying to think. Like, you can't hop over you can't like hop over anything. Like, you have to go around the bridge. You have to either like connect to a behemoth layer. That's the only abuse you can do as an alliance, is like do take a raid, take a behemoth layer or with one flag, and then you build on the opposite side of that behemoth layer. Like, you can do stuff like that, but you have to control the behemoth layer. Otherwise, you lose all that territory now. So,
which interesting point you talk about the capturing the behemoth layers, because I just recently found out, and I'm shocked I didn't know this beforehand, is that because even when I was playing in S2, we did this, but I just never noticed it at the time, is that if your alliance captures a behemoth layer in another region that is not your affiliated region, then you can then players can join your alliance from that new region. And all you have to do is just capture one behemoth layer. I did not know this, even though we did this with an alliance in S2. We just never. I mean, and I'm sure maybe some people joined, but I just like those dots didn't connect, and so for the longest time, I just thought that it was limiting. But I think even that was something that I think was, I mean, at least after I found out, I thought to myself, well, okay, this actually seems a lot better. And it somewhat makes sense. So yeah. Okay. With that in mind, I know we're coming up here to about 50 minutes. So I guess lastly, let's just touch on
the elephant in the room. I will kick it off.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go. Yeah, hit it.
The elephant in the room, and it's the last 2 points to go hand in hand. If you look at the patch notes, it goes hand in hand. I think it's 5 and 6. The biggest elephant in the room is the attack speed removal mechanic. It is absolutely crazy. Like, so as you stated earlier in the point, like, you didn't realize, talent stacked, right? And the fact that talent stacked is very powerful. Attack speed in this game, the way it worked were, imagine you roll the dice, right, on all your talents, and you have whatever percentages. So you have a 10% chance of getting 100 rage, right? Boom. But if you have 20% attack speed, you get to roll that dice again. And again. And again. And the more attack speed you had, you got to roll those chances more and more. So you got to do more often. And that was like that was the way it worked. We was asking the devs team how it works, because the thing is, prior to this, you looked at the fighting, the attack speed you would expect, I get to attack quicker, so I generate rage quicker, I generate all this. No, it generates in your talents page, like how much they like occur. And because of that, that's why if you was paying attention to every raid boss, I think since Nico came out, Nico was the number one damage dealer in the entire game. Yeah. He was absolutely bonkers. Like, him with a Husk, like you two, he was unmatched. He was absolutely unmatched, right? And the thing is, and this is why it's like I'm really kind of heated on this topic. I really loved attack speed. I thought it was actually a really clever mechanic to put on a unit, because it was a way to allow certain talent builds to thrive. And the fact that Nico was the first one, I think, was an upsetting moment, because I would have preferred to see them bring out maybe an infantry hero and a magic hero, like one of each at least. So each faction had some sort of attack speed hero, so they could go down that route. But they could have also brought out artifacts which reduced attack speed as well. So they could have even, if they thought it was such a problem, they could have even implemented changes and additions to solve the issue. I thought it was really good. I'm not even lying. Like, I thought attack speed was, when I first saw it, I was so intrigued about the mechanic, and it was like one of the most exciting things for me in the game, because it was like you've never seen it in any of the other games, the way that it worked. Like, it was its own unique stat line that was so good. And I think for them just to like yank it straight out and just take it out of your grips and just be like, no, we're not even going to deal with this now, because that's what the patch says. Like, they've removed it. We're not even going to have attack speed in the future. It's gone. Like, we are not dealing with it, because they have probably no way of wondering how they could like solve the issue. But it was like there wasn't really too much of an issue. It was the fact that it's the first hero that had launched with the buff. So I think if they tune down the numbers, like 20% was a lot. If they even just did a 10% attack speed buff, would have been enough. And then give him, like, they've given him what, 20% normal attack damage and 20% counter attack damage. He's still nuts with that. Like, that's still nutty damage he gets for having those 40% stacks now. Yeah. Like, so for me, like, it was the biggest change out of everything there. Like, they obviously keyword changed Husk. They did some number changes on a lot of heroes. Like, Madeline's change was really cool, what they've done to her. But these like changes that I kind of, when I first looked at Madeline, I kind of saw her having that ability. Like, I already saw Madeline as like Alex from Rise of Kingdoms. Like, she just reminded me of that hero. Like, same was like Garwood reminds people of Richard. Like, it's fine to have that reminiscence, because they still have their own unique ability. But like, Nico was just like so good, so unique. Nothing was alike with him. And like I say, you could have built him so differently with that one talent because of that. You know, like, you could go down the precision tree and have all these points in these different abilities that was allowing you to hit all these percentage triggers, which were giving you obviously more attack speed. You were getting extra physical defense shred. You was getting extra triggers on your burst shots that were hitting in. You were getting like I say, more rage. You could get more buffs. Like, you could go for all these crazy abilities, but it wasn't like so powerful that, you know, you was a one-man army. It was literally like a pure glass cannon. Like, if you got hit, you know you got hit. You felt it. Like, as an archer, you feel it. But like I said, for them to just like remove attack speed was like, for me, like the biggest shock of the whole patch. It was like out of nowhere it came. I started investing into Nico. Boom, gone. Like, I was like, what? So yeah, that's like my whole kind of like, I would say, rant or view on that. It's so weird. I don't know about you. I don't know if, because obviously I don't know if you've been seeing people play with Nico, or if you've like tested it in yourself in like on your own, like on another account or whatever. But like, I'd love to hear like your opinion on it, because like I bet it's such a weird one to be so heated on, because like it is for me just such a upset to just see gone as a mechanic in the game that could have been a really interesting mechanic to have, and to like have artifacts that could have either amplified it or like, you know, reduced the attack speed in a massive area and so forth. It'd have been so good. Like I could have seen that. Like I could have seen a mage artifact already, you know, in my head straight away. Mage artifact, AoE, hits 6 targets, reduces attack speed of those targets. Like I could just see it. Like
yeah. So this is what I'll say on the attack speed, right? My view is actually, and I touched on this during the update, right? And I see exactly where you're going with it. And you know, for me, I view it a little bit more kind of like how League of Legends does it, where when you add attack speed items to your characters in game, it visually increases the speed of their actual attack and the animations and how quickly they go from the character to hit the enemy. To me, that's exactly how it should be in this game. Yeah. Right? Because that shows you an accurate visual interpretation of attack speed, something that you can actually wrap your head around. Right? Obviously, compared to the kind of incognito way that they were doing it, where they didn't explain that. So the only way for you to really figure that out would be to ask someone, and then you'd have to obviously look at reports. And then you obviously would have to do some testing in order to actually get to that point where you can then read those and figure it out. But for me, on the attack speed thing, I'll just say, which is how I kind of feel on the other side of it, I would love for them to add it back in eventually. But for me, I would like for them to add it in where if you increased attack speed, you would actually see your character attacking faster visually. So the animation reflects that. That's what I would like to see.
Make it turn-based, because obviously everyone knows you get 1 attack per turn. So I don't know how they're going to do it, because like technically it's talents that... I mean,
check this out. Check this hot take. Why don't they just remove the turn-based and make everything truly real-time, just like a true RTS game, right? Like you don't...
I'd love that, but I just don't think you can do that on mobile. I think that's
maybe not yet, but that would be the future, right? Or whatever the next level is, to essentially remove it, and then you just get, and you can still get a report right afterwards, but the report wouldn't be based on that. Maybe the report would just say like something simple like total damage dealt, right? And then it breaks it down. Like this is how long the fight went on for, and then it breaks down what your per second damage is, or your DPS is, and it does it like that. And to me, that actually seems like it would be better and actually improved in some ways, because then you can start implementing those types of. I mean, this is the thing; it visually looks like that already. That's just not how it looks on the report.
Yeah, when it's so weird because when you. I'm trying to think how to explain it. When you look at it in that eye, I get what you mean. Yep. Like, I understand what you're saying. But it was like, when you look at certain talents in the game, so a really good one is for infantry, for example. Infantry have the talent when you max out. When they launch a normal attack, they have an additional chance to hit an additional counter attack damage hit, right? That's technically attack speed. That's technically the attack speed you're talking about. And there's like other units that do it as well, like marksman units do it as well, allow you to potentially launch an additional attack. Because that means in one turn, instead of doing 1 attack, you're launching 1.5. And that's how I initially, like you, thought attack speed was going to work. So I thought, okay, if I have 20% attack speed, that means I have a 1.2, because that's what it would be in League. I'd have a 1.2 attack speed on my hero from 1. And then it means I'm basically getting to that rage meter from 0 to 100 20% faster than you are, regardless of talents. That's how I would have looked at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, when we looked at it, and it was funny because I remember like I think it was Chad from the leader of like UNT. He messaged me like, bro, do you still have a Nico without any skills in? Like, I'm like, yeah, why? Because he's like, well, we all have this Nico charm. We all have the attack speed skill unlocked, but we can't tell what it's doing. Like, they all did not understand what the hell the skill was doing until we all asked. So, like, yeah, I would like it back in the game. I'd like it in the feature, like you said. But it's kind of like almost in. It's kind of like tiptoeing in and tiptoeing out.
Yeah. No, for sure. And, I think, gosh, what was the other one? I thought I had one more here I wanted to briefly hit on, which was, gosh, where is it? Honestly, okay, so my last one I'm going to give you, right? Because I know we're already at an hour here.
Yeah, it's
so
fine.
The last one I'll give you is the Legion multi-preset feature.
Oh, I love it.
This, to me, is just revolutionary.
Game changer.
It is
game changer.
This is something I've never seen done in another Kingdom Builder for ones I've played. Rock doesn't have this. State of Survival doesn't have this. Lords Mo doesn't have this, to my knowledge. Infinity Kingdom, I know, doesn't have this. And this is the thing. It's such a simple feature. It's such a simple mechanic when you really think about it. It's just the ability to send all 5 of your units out at once instead of one by one. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
And
do you know what's even better? It's the fact that they touched on what you did. Like, they did stepping stones, right? So originally it was like rock, you held, and then they added the tap, and then they did where the multi-tap, right?
Yeah.
Which is just so good. You could see progression, which I love.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I know when I covered it and I showed off some of the in-game features, it was so cool just moving the units around and just tinkering a little bit and testing like how to do some microing things. And again, I think really where the genre is going is it's really going to more of that type of true RTS, that type of StarCraft, that Age of Empires, that Warcraft style play that. Really, I think that is going to be the future on where we eventually see the genre go, because I think CoD is such a great kind of, I don't know if I want to say middle point, but I do think they're a good stepping stone to be doing things already that when you look at, I mean, in short, right, the kind of creme de la creme right now of the genre, right, which is rock for the most part, it's nice to see CoD really taking what we would consider to be such a breath of fresh air and takes on the genre to test things out and getting such a great reception as they are. So
yeah, definitely. Like, I love it. I love how I think you would maybe agree. Would you call them almost like the new pioneers of the genre? Like they've seen what everyone's done over the years. They've obviously done rock themselves. But like now they realize, okay, if we want to try and improve the genre, we have to start basically like from new, and this is it, right? So I don't know if you think that it'd be cool, like if you consider them the new pioneers.
Yeah, no, I mean 100%. I mean, I think when I first covered the game, doing my first impressions for it, I mean, however many months ago now, when a little before Server 2 came out. My view is it essentially was the same as it is today, is that CoD is just setting the standard in the Kingdom Builder genre more than any other game is currently. And in my opinion, if you're looking for something that is somewhat free to play friendly, just under the guise that every Kingdom Builder is always going to have spenders. You're never going to get rid of that. But it's, how free to play friendly can you really make a game? I think CoD has a good starting point for that. But more importantly, I think the fact that you have just true ranged play, you have artifact skill activation, which you can use on field. I like the fact that you have on field support tools that you can use in the form of barricades and keeps. I mean, I think these three things with true ranged PvP leading that charge and effort, has already at this point revolutionized the genre. And I hope that more people really notice how truly impactful that is when it comes to Kingdom Builders in the market, and how that's something that, you know, people, it's almost like a pipe dream, right? It's almost like something you would whisper at one point, where people would just, you know, it's almost like you're you know, you get done playing a match, or you're in, you know, some type of a lounge hangout with your buddies on a Discord voice, and it's just something that you just chat about as being, man, wouldn't this be so cool if this or that happened? And now to see that finally in a game that really is pushing that envelope, yeah, man, I mean, COD to me is number one. I mean, no one else is even close. So that's not to say that other games are now bad or now poor, but when you look at what they're doing and you compare that, and you understand that there's never been anything done like that before to this degree, and that looks this good, you know, you have such a higher level of appreciation for it. And so that's what I have for COD.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with all of that. I think you are spot on.
Okay. Now that we're almost at about an hour 5, hour 6 minutes, I think this is probably a goodish time to call it. So, but as we usually wrap up, I'm going to go ahead and pass the floor to Sneaky. All right, Sneaky, let the people know where people can find you, and then I can go ahead and close it out after you, good sir.
Yeah, so if you're checking me out, go on to YouTube. I'm just MrSneaky on YouTube. Also, if you're trying to find me in game, I'm on Super Server 1. I'm part of NT45 right now. Yeah, so if you're wanting to check my channel out, I do all the informational guides as well. Mine's more kind of mechanics based on certain things. And also, just to throw out there, anyone who knows my channel, we are still doing the giveaway. We only have a couple of days left, and that pretty much sums it up.
Awesome. And as usual, you guys know me, right? You can catch me at YouTube at MrSneaky, one word with an I, not a Y. And again, we'll have our links in the description and the pinned comment, right? I put those in both places for our videos when we pump those out, so you'll be able to, again, find Discord. You'll find Discord invite for servers, Discord name, and then YouTube channel, right? So I have to make sure that I think add the third one in for this time, because that's the new line that I just mentioned. So we'll make sure we have those in, but you can check those and find us in those places. That is going to be it for us on episode 2. This was a good one, Sneak. I actually really liked a lot of the stuff we touched on.
Yeah, it was really good. It was a good patch, to be fair. Like, it was really good. So I enjoyed it too.
Thankfully, more pros than cons, which
Definitely.
That's the trend we want to stay in.
Yeah.
Alrighty. That is it from us, man. As always, until next time, we will catch you all later.